One of the biggest missed opportunities inside organizations today is how finance supports operations. Too often, finance is seen as the team that reports results after the fact, while operations is left to make decisions with incomplete or unclear insight. But when FP&A and accounting shift from reporting numbers to translating drivers, supporting decisions before they're made, and aligning metrics to strategy, everything changes. Operations gains clarity, decisions get better and faster, and finance becomes a true strategic partner in executing the business strategy. That's what we're diving into today. Please enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Finance Leader Podcast, where leadership is bigger than the numbers. I'm your host, Stephen McLean. This is the podcast for developing leaders in finance and accounting. Please consider following me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. My usernames and the links are in this episode's show notes. You can also follow Finance Leader Academy on LinkedIn. Thank you. This is episode number 152, and I'll be talking about how finance can better support operations, and I will highlight the following topics. Number 1, translate financials into operational insight. Number 2, embed finance into forward-looking decisions. And 3, align metrics, goals, and incentives to strategy. A few months ago in episode number 145, FP&A and Operations, Creating Powerful Partnerships for Strategic Growth, I talked about how our finance teams should not work in isolation, but in fact work as partners with operations. Our goal is to help operators with their job so they are not wasting time trying to understand what we are sending them. Let's speak their language and send relevant information quickly, not huge data dumps where they either ignore our analysis or they waste precious time coming to the wrong conclusion. The last episode I shared, episode number 151, how clear priorities, trust, and timely decisions transform performance. I am encouraging everyone to start the year with leadership that actually moves the needle. We walk through the strategic actions that make teams faster, clearer, and more resilient without adding noise. If you missed this episode, please go back so you can listen. Thank you. I want to encourage you and your team to partner with the teams they support with data and insights to learn their language and what variables affect what they do. This helps you target more of the data that matters to find relationships and trends that matter. We don't want to send useless data, but to tell a story that adds value. Try not to clutter the message with extra data that means nothing. More data does not always translate to more value. The benefit for clearer and more relevant insights to operations is immediate and tangible. Teams gain a clearer understanding of which metrics truly matter, which ones are noise, and how their actions influence results. Over time, this builds trust between finance and operations, accelerates execution, and creates a shared understanding of performance that supports both short-term execution and long-term strategy. Now let's go another step further. Become a part of their ongoing discussions and project teams so you can help influence their decisions and actions in the right direction from the very start. This approach also strengthens strategy execution by closing the gap between planning and action. Too often, strategy lives in annual plans while day-to-day decisions quietly undermine it. When finance is embedded in operational and investment decisions, each choice is evaluated against strategic intent, not just short-term performance. Capital, capacity, and resources flow toward priorities that matter most, and strategy becomes something the organization does, not something it reviews. I had discussed priorities in the last episode. Everyone in the organization must know what the priorities are so they can arrange their daily task completion plan around them. When we are aligned on priorities, we save effort and resources. When alignment is done well, metrics become guides, not constraints. Leaders and teams understand which measures reflect strategic progress and which are supporting indicators. This clarity improves decision-making because trade-offs are evaluated through a strategic lens, not just short-term performance. Teams no longer ask, "Will this hurt my number?" but instead ask, Does this move the business closer to its goals? The shift from metric protection to outcome ownership is subtle but transformative. Please subscribe to the podcast on the platform you are currently listening to, and also please subscribe to my weekly email. When you subscribe to the email, you will receive a free guide about developing your finance leadership. It's filled with many tips and strategies to grow your leadership. Thank you. Let's ask ourselves this every day. As a member of the FP&A team or the accounting staff and even the auditing team, what can we do to be better aligned so we can provide the right guidance and information that matters while also enforcing good governance, accountability, and proper accounting of funds? We can support operations and do the right and ethical processes that we know to do. Now let's talk about how finance can help operations make better decisions. Number 1, translate financials into operational insight. Corporate FP&A creates the most value for operations when it stops presenting financial results as endpoints and starts using them as signals. Revenue, cost, and margin are not the story. They are outcomes of operational decisions already made. When FP&A translates financials into the operational drivers that produce them, volume, mix, utilization, labor deployment, throughput, or cycle time, leaders can see why performance changed, not just that it changed. This shift reframes finance from scorekeeper to interpreter, enabling decision makers to act with clarity instead of reacting to variance explanations after the fact. Effective translation means speaking the language of operators. Rather than leading with accounting categories or budget variances, strong FP&A teams anchor conversations in controllable levers that operations actually influence. A labor variance becomes a discussion about staffing patterns during peak demand. A margin decline becomes a conversation about capacity constraints or rework rates. By grounding financial results in real-world processes, FP&A removes abstraction and helps operations connect daily decisions to enterprise outcomes. This approach fundamentally improves decision-making because it changes how choices are evaluated. When finance frames options in terms of operational trade-offs, cost versus service, speed versus quality, utilization versus flexibility, leaders can weigh consequences before committing. Decisions stop being driven by instinct or precedent and instead become informed by clear cause and effect relationships. FP&A's role is not to choose for operations, but to make the implications of each option visible and comparable. When FP&A consistently translates financials into operational insight, finance earns its seat as a strategic partner. Operations will move faster with fewer surprises, leadership gains confidence in decisions, and the organization becomes more competitive, not because it has better data, but because it uses insight to act decisively. Number 2, embed finance into forward-looking decisions. Organizations that consistently execute strategy well rarely do so by accident. One of the defining characteristics of these organizations is that finance is embedded in decisions before they are made, not brought in after results are known. When FP&A is involved upstream, financial insight shapes choices in real time, clarifying trade-offs, servicing risks, and aligning decisions with strategic priorities. This shift transformed finance from a function that explains outcomes into one that actively influences them. Embedding finance into forward-looking decisions improves decision quality because it replaces hindsight with intentional foresight. Instead of debating variances after the fact, leaders evaluate options through scenarios, sensitivities, and assumptions while there is still time to adjust course. Finance does not dictate decisions, but it frames them, making the financial consequences of speed, scale, timing, and risk visible. This creates a shared understanding of what the organization is willing to trade in pursuit of its strategy. The benefits to leadership and operations are profound. Decisions happen faster because assumptions and risks are already understood. Fewer surprises emerge because scenarios were considered in advance. Accountability improves because decisions are made with clarity about expected outcomes and trade-offs. Over time, this creates organizational confidence. Leaders trust the numbers, teams trust the process, and execution becomes more disciplined and aligned. Ultimately, embedding finance into forward-looking decisions elevates the role of FP&A from analyst to strategic enabler. It ensures that decisions are not only financially informed, but strategically intentional, turning insight into action and plans into results. Number 3, align metrics, goals, and incentives to strategy. Organizations rarely fail because of a lack of goals. They fail because their metrics, incentives, and strategic intent are misaligned. When teams are measured on what is easy to track rather than what truly matters, decision-making becomes distorted. People optimize locally, protect their own numbers, and unintentionally work against enterprise objectives. Aligning metrics, goals, and incentives to strategy corrects this distortion by ensuring that day-to-day decisions reinforce the outcomes the organization is trying to achieve. Aligned goals improve execution by creating line of sight from individual effort to enterprise results. When people understand how their targets connect to customer value, growth, profitability, or competitive positioning, decisions become more intentional. Resources are allocated more effectively, priorities are clearer, and teams spend less time negotiating conflicting objectives. Strategy stops being abstract and becomes embedded in everyday choices across the organization. Incentives are the final and most powerful reinforcement. Organizations get exactly the behavior they reward. When incentives are aligned to strategic outcomes, they encourage collaboration, long-term thinking, and responsible risk-taking. When they are misaligned, even well-designed strategies struggle to gain traction. Aligning incentives ensures that performance discussions, goal setting, and decision-making all point in the same direction. Ultimately, aligning metrics, goals, and incentives to strategy improves decision-making because it removes friction, ambiguity, and unintended consequences. Teams act with confidence, leaders spend less time course-correcting, and the organization executes with focus. Strategy becomes self-reinforcing, not because it is communicated more often, but because it is built into how success is measured and rewarded. There is a belief that if we get too close to operations or any of the teams we support, then we also can't hold them accountable for proper spending, proper accounting, proper governance, better forecasting assumptions, and even giving up some kind of control over what tasks our team performs. But I disagree. It's always about relationships and leadership for me. You can hold others accountable when you strengthen relationships, and we act as leaders when it comes to establishing work procedures and support. You can definitely differentiate between letting things slide and holding others accountable while also providing world-class support. Now for action today, what do you think about how your organization handles what I discussed today? First, how well does your team tell a relevant financial story with the data you have? Does the information make a difference, and is it presented in a way that makes sense to the one who is receiving it? Next, are finance and accounting team members a part of the process and embedded in project teams offering frontline support to shape better outcomes? And finally, how aligned are the metrics and KPIs, incentives, and goals to the strategy? Today, I talked about how finance can better support operations, and I highlighted the following points. Number 1, translate financials into operational insight. Number 2, embed finance into forward-looking decisions. And 3, align metrics, goals, and incentives to strategy. I always believed in walking away from my desk to meet others so I can expand my knowledge and my influence throughout the organization. If you are working remotely, obviously this gets a little bit more challenging. Staying inside your own bubble provides little ability to meet leaders and team members from the teams that you support. When we break away, we can learn from those whom we support. We can learn what they are looking for, and what bothers them in how the company performs within their primary functions. I never like finance ever working like a stovepipe in functionality. We need to spread out to project teams and other key meetings. We need to get into the important rooms so we can make a positive difference in planning and the development of new lines of business and executive-sponsored projects. Get involved so your finance and accounting expertise can be used to bring a better outcome. Get involved at every level to influence what matters. I hope you enjoyed the Finance Leader Podcast. If this episode helped you today, please share with a colleague and leave a review. Please check out financeleaderacademy.com for more resources and for ways that I can help you and your team. And now, go lead your team, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.